She tried to sneak away starving, but the human father saw her eyes begging for his child's food. The small roadside diner sat at the edge of the city, a warm square of light in the cold, wet night. Rain tapped on the windows. Outside, the street was almost empty. Inside, it felt calm. Jonah Vale sat in a corner booth with his 8-year-old son, River. They came here often after long days. River swung his legs while he ate, lifting noodles from his bowl and blowing on the steam. Jonah watched him and let his shoulders relax. Then something in the air changed. It started as a tight feeling, like someone holding their breath too long. The sound of the rain and the clink of dishes seemed to fade. Jonah felt it before he saw anything. He looked past River. Someone was standing behind his son. A thin alien woman stood near the end of their table, so quiet that even the waiter had not noticed her. Her skin was pale violet but looked dull and gray. Her clothes were torn, as if she had been running. She did not speak. She did not move. She only stared. And she was staring at River's half-finished bowl of food. Jonah looked closer at her face. Her eyes were wide and tired. Fear lived there. But behind the fear, he saw something else. A deep hunger. River kept eating, not yet aware of her. A noodle slipped from his spoon and fell back into the broth with a quiet splash. The alien woman flinched at the sound. Then she lowered her head. She took one slow step back. Then another. She turned, trying to slip away from the table and from the light, like a shadow that never wanted to be seen. Jonah opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, her stomach growled. The sound was loud in the quiet corner. River stopped chewing and looked up with big eyes. Jonah saw the woman freeze, her shoulders folding inward like she had done something wrong. She did not turn around. Her hands pressed against her stomach. Jonah felt a pull inside his chest. Something was wrong. He stood up from his seat. "Miss," he said gently. His voice made her flinch. She raised her arms and covered her head as if she expected him to hit her. Jonah's chest tightened. He kept his hands open where she could see them. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly. Are you okay?" River slid out of the booth and stood beside his father. "Dad," he whispered. She looked scared. The woman's lips trembled. She kept her head low. I am fine," she said. "I must go. I am not allowed." She cut herself off. Jonah took a small step closer. The woman tried to move away, but her legs shook. For a second, it looked like she might fall. Jonah reached out to steady her. She flinched again, shrinking away from his hand like it was a weapon. "I'm not going to hurt you," he repeated. River's small voice slipped between them. "Miss, are you hungry?" The woman's eyes filled with tears. She shook her head quickly, too quickly, like the answer had been forced into her many times before. "No," she whispered. "No. I am not allowed to eat. They will punish me if I eat." The words hung in the air. Jonah and River shared a quick, stunned look. Before Jonah could ask who they were, the woman's head snapped toward the front door of the diner. Her breathing changed. Faster. Sharper. Her whole body went tight. She heard something he hadn't heard yet. Footsteps. Heavy. Slow. Coming closer. She took a step back toward Jonah instead of away from him this time. Her hands grabbed the back of his coat with sudden, desperate strength. She hid behind him like a terrified child. "Please," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Please don't let them take me." Jonah turned his head toward the glass front of the diner. Two tall shadows moved past the window. The door handle began to turn. River grabbed his father's sleeve. "Dad, what's happening?" Jonah placed a finger over his lips for River to stay quiet. Then he turned back, shifting his stance. He stepped so that his body completely blocked the woman from view. His heart was beating hard now, but his face stayed calm. Whoever walked through that door next, they were not getting to her without going through him first. The diner door opened slowly. Cold air rushed in, pushing rain smells into the room. The lights flickered for a second. 2 alien men stepped inside. They were tall, broad, and dressed in dark, armored coats that reflected tiny blue lights. Their boots hit the floor with heavy thuds. One man had a deep scar running from his forehead to his chin. The other carried a metal baton that hummed quietly. Everyone in the diner became silent. They looked around the room with sharp, searching eyes. Not curious. Not friendly. Predators. Behind Jonah, the alien woman dug her fingers into the back of his coat. He felt her shaking so hard he wondered how she was still standing. Her breath came out in fast, short bursts. River moved closer to his father, holding the edge of Jonah's shirt. The scarred man spoke first. "Owner," he said loudly, "we seek a runaway. Violet skin. Thin. Weak." Jonah felt the woman freeze completely. The diner owner looked scared. Many customers come. I cannot watch everyone." The hunters didn't believe him. They spread out, walking between tables, staring at every face. Their eyes were cold. Empty. Like they were used to doing bad things without guilt. The woman whispered behind Jonah, "Please, don't let them find me. Please." Jonah didn't turn around, but he lifted his hand behind him slightly, letting her feel his calm presence. "It's okay. Stay behind me," he whispered. The hunter with the baton stopped near River's bowl. Steam still rose from the food. He muttered, "This plate was warm recently, someone else sat here." Jonah kept his voice steady. "My son eats slowly. He's picky." River nodded quickly, though his hands were shaking. The scarred man stared at Jonah for several long seconds. His glowing eyes narrowed. The alien woman behind Jonah held her breath. Then, a loud voice from the other side of the diner broke the tension. A customer shouted at the cook, complaining about his bill. Plates clattered. The scarred hunter turned his head for only one moment. It was enough. "Let's go," the hunter with the baton said. "She can't run far." The 2 men walked toward the door, still scanning every corner like wolves searching for a scent. When they stepped outside, the diner finally exhaled. People whispered nervously. The woman behind Jonah collapsed to her knees. River gasped and moved beside her. Jonah crouched. "Hey. It's okay now." She shook her head violently. "No. No. They know. They are close. They always find me." River gently touched her arm. "Miss, they're gone." The woman's eyes filled with tears. She stared at the half-eaten food again but didn't touch it. Her hands were still shaking. Jonah sat beside her. "Who were they?" She looked down. Whispered a name with fear in every syllable. "Rovan Syndicate Hunters." Jonah felt something cold settle in his chest. He had heard that name before, groups that traveled across systems buying workers, owning them, treating them worse than machines. River frowned. "They hurt you?" She nodded slowly. She lifted her sleeves slightly without thinking. Scars covered her wrists, thin lines of burns and cuts. "I'm not allowed to eat," she said softly. "If I eat without their permission, they beat me. They say food is for people, not for property." River's face twisted in horror. "You're not property. That's mean." Her eyes widened at his words, as if kindness was something strange. "I tried to leave the diner," she whispered. "I did not want to bring danger. I only wanted to smell the food. I wanted to remember what warm food feels like." Jonah swallowed hard. What's your name? She hesitated. Lyra. Lyra, Jonah said gently, you're safe for now. But you can't stay here. Lyra covered her mouth. I should run again. I don't want trouble to follow you. Jonah shook his head. Running won't help you if they're already hunting. River stood up bravely. Come with us, Miss Lyra. Dad knows what to do. Lyra looked shocked. You would help me? Jonah nodded. We don't leave people in danger. Before Lyra could reply, Jonah noticed something strange outside the diner's window. Two dark shapes stood across the street. Not moving. Not hiding. Just watching. Lyra saw them too. Her breath cracked. They found me, she whispered. They always find me. Jonah grabbed his coat, lifted Lyra carefully, and took River's hand. Stay close, he said. We're leaving. Now. The rain outside didn't feel cold anymore. It felt like danger was falling from the sky. Rain poured harder when Jonah stepped outside with River and Lyra. The streetlight flickered above them, making the shadows look alive. Lyra stayed close, almost hiding under Jonah's coat. Her legs were weak. Her breath kept breaking. River held her hand tightly to keep her steady. Jonah scanned the street. Nothing moved at first. Only the sound of rain hitting the metal signs. Then. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Purposeful. Coming from the alley to their left. Jonah felt Lyra freeze behind him. Out of the darkness, two figures appeared. The same hunters from the diner. The scarred one smirked the moment he saw them. Well, well. Look who we have. River stepped closer to his father, half hiding behind Jonah's arm. Jonah stood tall. She's not going with you. The hunter laughed quietly. Human, you think you can stop us? Lyra let out a sharp, frightened breath. Please, don't let them take me. The second hunter pointed at her feet sticking out from under Jonah's coat. There, he said. She is with them. Lyra tried to pull the coat lower, trembling uncontrollably. Jonah didn't move aside. You're not taking her anywhere. The scarred man stepped forward until he stood only a few feet away. Rain dripped down his long scar, making it shine like a blade. She belongs to the Rovan Syndicate, he said calmly. She is property. River's small voice cut through the rain. No, she's not. The hunter's eyes sharpened. Children should learn when to stay silent. Jonah clenched his jaw. Don't talk to my son. The scarred hunter lifted his hand slowly, reaching for Lyra. Jonah grabbed his wrist in midair. The hunter's smile vanished. You're making a mistake, human. No, Jonah said quietly. You are. The hunter jerked his arm back with brute force, but Jonah didn't let go at first. Rain splashed around them as the two locked eyes. Then a shrill whistle cut through the alley. The second hunter tilted his head. Backup is coming. Three new silhouettes emerged from the shadows behind them. Large. Armored. Weapons glowing blue. Lyra gasped. No, no, not more. Please. River squeezed her hand. It's okay. Dad is here. Jonah pulled River and Lyra behind him. The hunters stepped forward slowly, closing the gap. You had your chance, the scarred man said. Move aside. Now. Jonah's heart raced, but he stood firm. I won't let you take her. You can't protect her, the hunter snarled. You can't even protect yourself. The three new hunters surrounded them. Rain hit their armor, sliding down like silver streams. Lyra whispered, Jonah, they don't stop. They don't get tired. I know, Jonah replied. But neither do fathers. Suddenly. A distant alarm echoed through the streets. A patrol siren. The hunters cursed quietly. The scarred one glared at Jonah. This isn't over. We'll come back. And next time, there will be no warning. They stepped back into the alley shadows, disappearing as quickly as they came. Lyra's legs buckled. She fell to her knees. I brought danger to your child, she sobbed. I should have stayed on the streets. River knelt beside her. No, Miss Lyra. You didn't bring danger. They did. Jonah lifted her gently. You're coming with us. You need shelter. I'll only cause more trouble, she whispered. Trouble comes when good people look away, Jonah said. I won't. He placed his jacket around her shoulders again. River held her hand tightly. Together, the three walked through the rain. They passed quiet houses, empty roads, dim lights. Every corner felt too dark. Every shadow felt too deep. Lyra kept looking over her shoulder, shaking every time a branch moved or a car passed. They will follow, she whispered. Jonah didn't deny it. I know. River looked up at his father. Are we going to be okay? Jonah placed a hand on his son's head. We will make sure we're okay. Lyra's eyes softened, but fear still sat deep inside them. I don't deserve this, she said. You don't even know me. Jonah kept walking. You're someone in danger. That's enough. When they turned the final corner, Jonah's small metal house came into view. Warm lights glowed through the windows. Lyra stopped walking. She swallowed hard. That is your home. Yes, Jonah said. And tonight, it is your safe place. Lyra didn't move. Her voice cracked. I've never had a safe place. River tugged her hand gently. Come on, Miss Lyra. You do now. Lyra took one shaky step forward. Then another. And for the first time that night, her eyes held something besides fear. A tiny spark of hope. Jonah's home sat in a quiet row of small metal houses. The porch light flickered softly in the rain. It wasn't big or fancy, but it always felt warm. Tonight, it felt like the only safe place left in the world. Jonah pushed open the door and guided Lyra inside. River followed, still holding her hand. The moment she entered, Lyra stopped completely. She looked around the small living room as if she had stepped onto another planet. The soft lamp. The clean floor. The pictures of River on the wall. The smell of warm tea. It was simple, but it was peaceful. Lyra swallowed hard. I don't know where to stand. Jonah closed the door gently. Anywhere you want. You're safe here. Lyra shook her head. Safe. She whispered the word like it was foreign. I don't know what safe feels like. River walked up to her with a blanket. He held it out with both hands. Here. You look cold. Lyra stared at the blanket as if it were made of gold. She took it slowly, carefully wrapping it around her shoulders. Thank you, she whispered. Then she sat down on the very edge of the couch, barely letting herself touch it. Her posture was stiff, like someone who expected the furniture to reject her. Jonah sat across from her. Lyra, tell me what happened. She looked at her trembling hands, her purple skin bruised and thin. Her voice was so soft that River had to sit beside her to hear. My people, we live under the Rovan Syndicate. They take us from our homes. They force us to work. If we fail, they punish us. If we cry, they punish us. If we get sick, they replace us. She touched her ribs slowly, wincing. I was beaten yesterday. I dropped a crate. My body was too tired. River's eyes widened. That's awful. Lyra nodded weakly. I escaped last night. I ran until my legs stopped. I hid in alleys. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I only thought about one thing. Jonah leaned forward. What thing? She lifted her head, eyes filling with tears. My child. River gasped softly. Lyra continued, her voice cracking. They took him from me. My baby boy. He was only 1 month old. They said I did not deserve him because I worked too slow. I ran away to find him, but I have no map. No money. No strength. I only had hope. She covered her face with her hands. But hope is not enough. They always find us. They always take us back. River wrapped an arm around her gently. Lyra froze at first, shocked that someone touched her kindly. Then she let out a tiny sob and leaned into him. Jonah stood up and walked to the window. He moved the curtain a little. A dark shape stood across the street. Still. Silent. Watching the house. Jonah felt his stomach tighten. They're here, he whispered. Lyra jumped to her feet. No. Please. Not here. Not again. River ran to Jonah. Dad? Jonah locked the door and turned off the lights. The room fell into dim shadows. Stay calm, he said, though his own heart raced. Lyra backed into a corner, shaking uncontrollably. You should let me go, she cried. If they see me here, they will hurt you. They hurt anyone who helps us. Jonah moved toward her, slow and steady. You're not going anywhere. They won't get inside. You don't understand, she said. They always get inside. Jonah placed a hand on her shoulder. She shivered at the touch but didn't pull away this time. You're not alone now. Lyra's breathing softened, for only a moment. Then she suddenly bent over, clutching her side. A sharp cry escaped her lips. River rushed to her. Dad! She's hurt. Jonah knelt at her side. What is it? Lyra winced as she lifted her shirt a little. A deep, dark bruise spread across her ribs, angry and swollen. This, she whispered. This is from last night. They struck me with a staff. I tried to ignore it, but now I can barely breathe. Jonah felt anger rise through him like fire. No one should do this to anybody. She looked away. Pain is normal for us. Not anymore, Jonah said firmly. River brought water. Lyra reached for the cup, but her hand shook so badly that Jonah had to help her hold it. She drank slowly, terrified even of drinking. Jonah watched her with a heavy heart. He walked back to the window. The shadow across the street hadn't moved. River whispered, Dad, what do we do? Jonah exhaled. We prepare. Lyra looked up at him, eyes wide with rising fear. Prepare for what? Jonah's eyes stayed on the window. For them. The night deepened, and the rain turned into a steady curtain outside Jonah's house. Every drop sounded louder than the last, like the sky itself knew danger was coming. Jonah stayed at the window, watching the unmoving shadow across the street. Then the shadow lifted a small device. A red light blinked. Lyra gasped. No, no, that's a heat scanner. They're checking every home. Jonah's muscles tightened. They know you're close. River stood beside him, clutching Jonah's sleeve. Dad, is he going to come inside? Jonah didn't answer right away. But Lyra did. They never come alone. If one is scanning, the others are near. They wait until they are sure. Then they break the door. As if her words summoned the moment. A low rumble echoed through the street. Jonah looked left. Headlights appeared. 3 dark vehicles rolled slowly toward the house. Heavy, armored, and silent except for the hum of engines. Lyra covered her mouth, fighting a sob. Enforcers, they sent the elite ones. Jonah moved fast. He shut off the lamps, locked the door again, then dragged a metal shelf and pushed it in front of the entrance. River ran to help, doing his best even though the shelf was almost heavier than him. The vehicles stopped outside with a hiss of steam. Doors opened. Boots hit the wet pavement, strong, unified steps. Lyra sank onto the couch, pulling the blanket tight. She rocked back and forth, shaking uncontrollably. They will tear the door, they will hurt you, this is my fault, you should let me go. No, Jonah said sharply. They'll take you the moment you step outside. I don't want them to hurt you, she cried. Jonah knelt in front of her. Listen. I would never let them near my son. And I won't let them near you either. His voice was steady, but when he stood up again, his hands were shaking. Outside, the enforcers spread out across the front yard. Their armor shined with blue lines. Their helmets had glowing masks that scanned the ground and the walls. One of them spoke with a cold metallic tone. Heat signature detected. Inside this house. Lyra covered her ears. Jonah grabbed 2 more blankets from the closet and threw them over Lyra and River. Stay down. Don't move. River whispered, Dad, please stay with us. Jonah brushed his son's hair back. I'm right here. But he walked forward anyway, placing himself between the door and his family. Boom. A heavy strike hit the door. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Human, the voice outside shouted, open the door. You are hiding stolen property. Jonah didn't respond. Another strike. Boom. The shelf shook. The door frame groaned. Lyra wept under the blanket. They will get in. They always get in. Jonah tightened his grip on the metal bar he held. It was the same tool he used to fix pipes. Tonight, it would have to do much more than that. Outside, an enforcer lifted a crackling device. It buzzed with growing energy. River peeked from under the blanket. Dad, what is that? An override charge, Lyra whispered. It breaks doors. It breaks walls. It breaks people. Jonah's jaw clenched. Stay covered, he ordered. The rain outside made the ground shine blue. The leader of the enforcers, taller than the rest, with a long, flowing coat, stepped forward. Her voice was sharp like ice. Human Jonah Vale. Step aside. The runaway belongs to us. Jonah stood firm. She belongs to no one. The leader tilted her head. Very well. Bring out the child instead. The human boy. River stiffened under the blanket. Lyra screamed softly. No. Not him. Please not him. Jonah's heartbeat turned into a roar inside his chest. He stepped forward, his eyes hard and burning. You touch my son, he growled, and you won't walk away. A moment of absolute stillness followed. The leader lifted her hand. Break the door. The override charge began to whine as it powered up. The air shook with the sound. Lyra grabbed River's hands under the blankets. Forgive me, she whispered. This is because of me. I should have never come. River shook his head. No. Dad won't let anything happen. The charge hummed louder. Brighter. Jonah stood in front of the door like a human wall. Outside, the enforcer shouted. Override ready. Then. Boom. The front door exploded inward. Wood splinters flew. The shelf crashed backward. Smoke filled the living room. The house shook as if struck by lightning. Lyra screamed. River ducked. And Jonah. Jonah stepped forward into the smoke, metal bar in his hand, eyes blazing with the fury of a father. The enforcers began to storm inside. And Jonah Vale was ready to fight every one of them. Smoke drifted across the living room like a dark fog. The house creaked from the blast. River covered his ears under the blankets. Lyra crouched over him, shaking violently. Through the haze, shapes moved. Tall. Armored. Cold. The Rovan enforcers marched inside, blue lights glowing across their chest plates. Their boots crushed the broken wood on the floor. The leader stepped through the ruined doorway last. Her mask glowed bright white, scanning every corner. She raised a hand. Find the runaway. 3 soldiers spread out. Jonah stood in front of them, gripping the metal bar tightly. His knuckles were white. His breath was sharp. But his eyes burned with a fierce protectiveness the enforcers had never seen. The closest soldier swung his electric baton at Jonah. Jonah blocked it with the metal bar. Sparks jumped into the air. His arms shook from the impact, but he didn't fall. Another soldier grabbed Jonah's shoulder. Jonah twisted his body and slammed his elbow into the soldier's helmet. The man stumbled back, surprised by the strength of a human father. A third soldier came from the side. Jonah ducked, rolled, and struck him across the knee. The enforcer crashed into the table, sending plates flying. Lyra watched with wide, terrified eyes. "Jonah," she whispered. "You'll die." But Jonah didn't hear her. He only heard River's frightened breathing behind the blankets. The leader raised her voice. "Restrain him." 2 more soldiers rushed Jonah at once. They were larger, stronger, trained to break resistance. One grabbed his arm. The other slammed him into the floor. Jonah groaned as his back hit the ground. The metal bar slipped from his hand. Lyra cried out, "No. Please stop." The leader ignored her. "You caused trouble, human. You hid our property. And for that, you will suffer." A soldier pressed a knee into Jonah's spine. Another pinned down his arm. They tried to lock metal cuffs on him. Jonah's face pushed against the floor. His breath was ragged. His muscles trembled under the weight of the armored enforcers. But then he heard River whisper through the blankets. "Dad, please get up." That was enough. Jonah roared, a sound filled with every fear and every bit of love he had for his son. He twisted violently. The soldier on his back slipped. Jonah slammed his elbow backward into the man's ribs. Then he shoved upward with all his strength. The second soldier toppled sideways. Jonah reached for anything, his hand hit the broken wooden leg of a chair. He grabbed it and swung. Crack. One soldier dropped. Another staggered. A helmet flew off. The leader stepped backward in shock. "This human fights like a beast," she hissed. Jonah stood, body bruised, bleeding from the forehead, breathing in painful gasps. But he stood. "You will not touch my family," he growled. The leader pointed at Lyra's hiding place. "Take the runaway and the child." "No." Lyra screamed, shielding River. But Jonah moved like lightning. He lunged forward, grabbed a fallen enforcer by the armor, and threw him into another soldier. They crashed into the wall. The leader lifted a small weapon. A glowing charge built inside it. Lyra screamed, "Jonah, watch out." The leader fired. Jonah rolled across the floor, the blast missing him by inches and burning a hole through the couch. The leader aimed again. Before she could fire, Jonah rushed her and grabbed her wrist. He twisted hard. The weapon fell to the floor and slid under the table. The leader cried out in pain. "You think you can win?" she spat. Jonah's voice was low and deadly. "I just need to keep you away from my son." A loud siren echoed outside. "Real Law Patrol." Flashing blue lights shined through the shattered doorway. The enforcers froze. Rovan Syndicate soldiers, a patrol officer shouted. You are operating illegally on this street. Surrender. The enforcers hesitated, then began lowering their weapons one by one. The leader glared at Jonah as two patrol officers grabbed her arms. This is not over, she hissed. You have no idea what she is worth. Jonah stared back. She's worth more than any of you ever understood. The enforcers were dragged out into the rain. The moment the last armored boot left the house, Lyra collapsed. She sobbed into her hands, shaking uncontrollably. River crawled out from under the blankets and hugged her tightly. Miss Lyra, he whispered, it's okay now. Dad's here. Jonah dropped to his knees, breathing hard. Blood dripped down his cheek. He held his son close and placed a gentle hand on Lyra's back. It's over, he said quietly. But Lyra lifted her head, tears streaming. No, the syndicate never gives up. There is more. Much more. Jonah met her terrified eyes. The fight inside his home was only the beginning. Rain still hit the broken doorway as the patrol officers dragged the Rovan enforcers to their vehicles. Blue lights flashed across the walls of Jonah's damaged home. The air was thick with smoke, dust, and the sharp smell of burned wood. Lyra sat on the floor, shaking violently, holding River's hands like she was afraid he might disappear. Jonah knelt beside them, breathing hard, blood still dripping from his forehead. The patrol commander stepped inside slowly. Sir, you protected a runaway from the syndicate. That took courage. Jonah wiped his face. They were after my son too. We saw that, the commander replied. Those soldiers went far beyond their authority. Two officers appeared behind him, carrying something carefully. A small metal container. Round. Portable. Sealed with syndicate markings. The commander's voice softened. During the vehicle search, we found this. He nodded to his officers. Open it. The lid lifted with a soft hiss. Inside. A cradle. Small. Wrapped in soft cloth stolen from some unknown place. And in the cradle. A tiny violet-skinned infant. Warm. Alive. Eyes blinking gently at the bright lights. Lyra's breath stopped. She pushed herself up slowly, barely daring to believe. The officer stepped forward and gently placed the cradle in front of her. Lyra covered her mouth with trembling hands. No, no, this cannot be. But when she reached inside, her fingers brushed soft skin. Her child. Her baby boy. Her whole body broke into shaking sobs as she lifted him against her chest. The baby made a small sound, a confused little cry, then curled into her warmth. Lyra fell to her knees, clutching him as tightly as she dared. My son, my little one, my baby. Her tears fell onto his forehead. I thought you were gone. I thought I lost you forever. River knelt beside her, smiling through his own tears. He's really your baby, Miss Lyra. Lyra nodded, unable to speak. She kissed the baby's tiny hands again and again. Jonah felt the storm in his chest finally start to calm. He looked at her, the woman who had arrived starving and terrified, now holding her child like he was a piece of her soul returned. The commander spoke quietly. The syndicate intended to move this infant off-world by dawn. Your intervention saved his life. Lyra hugged her child harder. You saved us, she whispered to Jonah. You saved everything. Jonah shook his head. You ran for him. You survived for him. I just helped you finish the run. Lyra looked up at him, tears shining in her eyes. No one has ever protected me before. No one has ever protected my child. Her voice broke. You gave us something no one has ever given, hope. River leaned against Jonah's arm. Dad always helps people. Jonah smiled softly and pulled River close. But the commander wasn't done. The syndicate leader you fought tonight will be held for now, but their networks are wide. If you keep the woman here long term, you must be careful. Jonah stood. We're not turning her away. River nodded hard. She's family now. Lyra's eyes widened at the word. Family. She looked at her son, then at River, then at Jonah. Her voice was barely a whisper. I have never had a family. Jonah placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. You do now. The commander nodded respectfully and stepped out, leaving them in the quiet of the broken home. When the patrol vehicles drove away, Lyra sat against the wall with her child wrapped in her blanket. She rocked him slowly, her tears falling onto his tiny face. River sat beside her, staring at the baby in wonder. What's his name? Lyra smiled weakly. His name is Aaron. River whispered the name softly, as if it were something precious. Hello, Aaron. Jonah looked around the wrecked room, shattered wood, broken furniture, black marks on the wall, but none of it mattered. Not tonight. He sat down next to Lyra. For the first time since she entered the diner, her trembling stopped. She rested her head on his shoulder. Not in fear. Not in desperation. But in trust. I will never leave, she whispered. Not while my son is safe. Not while you protect us. Jonah nodded. You're home now. Lyra closed her eyes, holding her infant close. And for the first time in her entire life, she believed it.